Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Hamas-run health ministry says at least 27 people have been killed and 90 injured by Israeli fire while waiting for aid distribution in Rafah. The Israeli military says it fired shots near an aid complex after identifying several suspects and is examining reports of casualties. Israel denied shooting Palestinians in a similar incident on Sunday, which the Hamas-run health ministry said killed 31 people and injured nearly 200. Humanitarian groups continue to push for far more aid to be allowed into Gaza.
We have about 40 International Rescue Committee staff, local staff on the ground in Gaza. We also have a dozen or so partner organizations. They're focused on healthcare, on malnutrition, on protection of children. And the situation is beyond dire. It's a catastrophic situation. The International Phase Classification System, which is a famine watchdog that assesses famine around the world, says that 500,000 people are at risk of famine, and the whole population, 2 million, are suffering from high levels of food insecurity.
Millions of South Koreans are voting in a snap election triggered by former President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment over his failed martial law bid. The opposition's Lee Jae-myung is the front-runner, and the ruling party's Kim Moon-soo, a former member of Yoon's cabinet, is trailing him. The election has been shaped by the fallout from Yoon's brief but disastrous move in December, which triggered divisive protests and months of political chaos. The new president faces a polarized country, businesses anxious over US tariffs, and an unpredictable ally in Donald Trump. The death of a 10-year-old rape victim in the eastern Indian state of Bihar after an alleged delay in medical treatment has sparked outrage and protests in the country. The girl died on Sunday morning at the state government-run Patna Medical College and Hospital. Her uncle has alleged that the child's condition worsened as she was kept waiting for an ambulance for around 4 hours before being admitted to hospital. A second round of direct peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have ended without a major breakthrough and only a deal to swap more prisoners of war. Ukrainian negotiators said Russia had already rejected an unconditional ceasefire, a key demand by Kyiv and its allies in Europe and the US, but the two committed to return the bodies of 12,000 soldiers. The Russian team said it had proposed a 2- or 3-day truce in certain areas of the vast front line, but gave no further details.
What I can tell you for sure is that the Ukrainian delegation was bringing the issue and bringing the discussion back to the topics which are the priority for the Ukrainian delegation, which is the ceasefire, humanitarian confidence-building measures, the return of our prisoners of war, children, and then the meeting of the leaders. Because we think that this is the real points. We can talk for a long time about any, big issues, but in the end, the peace process starts with the basics, and the basics is the ceasefire, humanitarian confidence-building measures, and the meeting of the leaders, which can kick off a real, meaningful, substantial peace process. We think our position is not, it's very logical. I mean, it's very natural and logical.
An Australian woman who cooked a toxic mushroom meal has told her murder trial she has long been a mushroom lover, but more recently developed a taste for wild fungi varieties that have more flavour. Erin Patterson has pleaded not guilty to the murder of 3 relatives and the attempted murder of another after serving them death cap mushrooms at her home in Victoria in July 2023. Prosecutors say she deliberately put the poisonous mushrooms in the meal, but her defence team says it was a terrible accident.
Congratulations, Mr. Bill Gates. Ethiopia is deeply grateful.
And the Microsoft founder Bill Gates says that most of his fortune will be spent on improving health and education services in Africa over the next 20 years. Speaking in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, he also urged Africa's young innovators to think about how to build artificial intelligence to improve healthcare on the continent. Gates announced last month that he would give away 99% of his vast fortune, which he expects to reach $200 billion by 2045, by when his foundation plans to end its operations. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.